Hey, DMDongo here with another review from the DM's Guild. This time we're going to be looking at Hamund's Harvesting Handbook Volume 2 by Jeffrey Yang, currently on sale for $7.99. This one looks at Volo's Guide to Monsters, so hopefully it's a bit more accurate than Volo himself. So this is the sequel to the wildly popular book that contained every monster from the monster manual and how to take them apart into the far more useful magical items. I mean, instead of killing machines that were trying to eat your player characters. This time the tome has been expanded to include everything from Volo's Guide to Monsters, from the Banderhob all the way to the Yuan-Ti. Each entry includes what you can harvest, and more importantly, the possible uses in gold value of all those lovely bits, along with the harvesting DCs for each of the items. Some are more difficult to get to than others, at least in whole bits. As before, select entries come with a bit of insight from Hamund himself on the creatures in question, which might include things like insights into the creature's culture, or perhaps a story about a drinking friend who is no longer drinking due to an encounter with some Kirin hair. All of the parts include great points of description and good little tidbits of lore about what the items were used for historically, such as slime from the Flail Stone used in cosmetics to get that lovely shimmer effect that everyone truly craves, as long as they don't really know where it came from. Now I'm going to pick two entries on this to give you an idea of the kinds of items you can acquire and what's required to successfully retrieve some of the ingredients. Now, because I've already mentioned it, let's start with the Flail Stone. I have a really funny relationship with this monster. I was desperate to have my players fight one, and when I was running the Tomb of Annihilation, but it just never came up in the random encounter tables. And to top it off, they refused to allow the snail to inhabit them. The kinds of things you can acquire from this iridescent mollusk are as follows. The flail of the flail snail, its slime gland, and finally the iridescent shell, the piece de resistance. The eponymous flail, once you remove it after a DC 10 harvesting check, allows you to turn them to one of 3 +1 weapons: a whip, a morning star, or of course a flail. The slime gland, which, if it can be removed successfully with a DC 15 harvesting check, can be used to make cosmetics or glass oil, which once applied to a glass surface allows you to manipulate it like soft rubber, for either breaking and entering or perhaps unique art sculptures. That's up to you. Now, the shell is the hardest part to remove successfully with a DC 20 harvesting check. However, manage to do so, and if you sell this thing, you net yourself a tidy 5,000 gold profit, or make one of 3 magical items: the Robe of Scintillating Colors, the Spellguard Shield, or the Anti-Magic Shield. From the Flail Snail, we move on to the Bodak, because a few of my groups have run into this creature, and they have a history of failing those saving throws quite spectacularly. The 2 items you can retrieve from these nightmare creatures are the Mark of Orcas, or one of the Bodak's eyes. The mark has a DC 15 harvesting check and can be used to create the Curse of Desolation, but still maintain their connection to Orcas, so be cautious with this. The curse itself allows you to curse magical items with the worst parts of being a vampire. The eyes, which probably kill at least one party member, which after harvesting with the DC 20 check, can be made into something called Death Goggles, which are a really interesting item that allows you to, gives you the memory of the most recent time a humanoid you are looking at killed a person, and if it was recent enough, can damage the target. They'll find a particularly innocent person, and you could find yourself going blind. After the monsters are all done, you are then treated to some additional crafting rules to help with some of the more difficult recipes, though it does use the crafting rules for Xanathar's Guide to Everything for everything else. Past that, you get to new items that are unique to the supplement, and there are a lot of them, enough to make everyone happy. These are all items you can create from any of the bits from the Volo's Guide to Monsters. If all that wasn't enough, you have some special tools to aid in the harvesting of the creatures, and some new spells that are specifically targeted to either helping to harvest or storing creatures that you don't have time to harvest right away. I particularly like Conjure Creature, as it allows you to use a creature's heart to resummon it and have it perform one action before rendering back to dust, which could be extremely useful and if a bit weird to be carting around a ton of hearts for this purpose. You then have a few NPCs that can provide help with harvesting or crafting. And the final section of the book is chock full of quest ideas relating to a huge number of creatures and harvesting. It even maybe would allow you to do something like create an entire campaign session around all of this stuff. Have a group of adventurers go out, harvest some things, come back, and repeat over and over again for various clients. It'd be an interesting idea for a West Marches style campaign. What did I like about this? I want to say that the attention to detail and the time taken to make sure every monster feels like a unique and interesting find is a godsend. It makes it a joy anytime a player decides to harvest something. You get to give them a little story almost for every single piece they pull from the monster as they make their checks to pull these things apart. In addition, I love the magical items that go along with all the harvesting. There are some truly unique and interesting magical creations, such as the Helmet of Stone Dreams, which allows you to picture an item in your head and create a stone copy of that item, as long as it's no longer than 1 square foot. I love items like this because there's a lot of room for inventive ideas, and the supplement is full of these. In addition to the items, though, the thing I really enjoyed about it is the quest ideas. They are brilliantly executed and really interesting. Very varied. Not just, I want this because of some reason or some very vague reason, but more of, I want this because my sick mother will need this thing in order to survive and live. I want this because I want to get revenge on a jealous lover or something like that. All of them, and there's so many of them, is really, really interesting and adds a lot to the entire supplement. Right, now onto things I didn't like about the supplement, and there's not a lot of things here. It should come as no surprise, this is a really great collection of things. However, I will mention one thing. The spell Cold Storage. I feel it is a little bit overpowered for what it does. Essentially, the spell is banishment. Same level and same everything else. It moves a creature to another place. Except in this game, it's not so much a harmless demiplane as one that will do damage every single turn. In addition to that, it lacks the material component of normal banishment spells that provide some level of balance to it. Essentially, the banishment spell normally requires an item that is distasteful to the target. So for example, if you were trying to banish a fire elemental, you might need a bucket of water. Now that's easy to get, but some more esoteric things like demons or angels might require demon talons or potentially angel feathers, or vice versa, depending on which one you're looking at. Anyways, that's the only thing I can mention out of 115 pages. The formatting is brilliant, the art is great. While I would love more of it, I always want more art because I'm a visual learner, I don't think there's anything else to mention. It's perfect for what it is. Right, on to my final thoughts and my rating. I think this is a really great addition to a series of books. I think including the Volo's Guide to Monsters alone wouldn't have been enough for me to go, yeah, that's worth $7.99. Including the quest ideas, though, was a brilliant addition and really makes it worth that price point. It is definitely worth every single penny because of those quest ideas and the monsters. The attention to detail is second to none. Every single entry feels like it was written by the greatest of scribes and feels like you're building a world around it. It's a really, really great entry into this series, and I'm looking forward to the volume 3 that it deals with Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, because there's some really interesting monsters in that book. So, my rating. I think this deserves a full 5 out of 5. It really is a great book. Probably one of the best on the guilds, and probably one of the best and most useful DMs supplements out there. Just because of the amount of time players always ask, what can I harvest from that thing over there? And you go, sigh, blah, blah, blah. And you just make something up. Unless it's a dragon, then you just go, oh, the dragon scales, you can use those. This book deals with that in a much better way. Gives you a much clearer picture of exactly what you're trying to get. Thank you, this has been DM Dongo. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and please use my affiliate code down below if you decide to purchase Hamund's Harvesting Handbook, Volume 2. Peace out.